welcome. We're excited that you're here. We're going to start in a few minutes. Hope everybody's doing good.
Yeah, hopefully everyone's settled in and comfy in their homes or wherever they need to be.
I'm here with Fernando, one of my therapists. We're a little close, but we are clean.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I washed my hands all this morning.
Yeah. Fernando has written a book also about different things to help kids with the coronavirus. We're going to be talking a little bit in a few minutes about navigating unexpected situations, but before, we're going to wait for a few others to jump on here. But tell us a little bit about your book, Fernando.
Yeah.
How to explain the coronavirus to kids.
Yeah, well, so He's
going to be giving it away.
Yes. I see clients and I work with children, obviously, and realize that a lot of parents are having troubles kind of talking about what coronavirus is in a child-friendly way for a couple of reasons. One's because it's really scary and it's hard to educate children on this in a child-friendly way without really scaring them. And so I thought, okay, let's maybe make something that's colorful and kind of simple. And so I wrote a book that kind of talks a little bit about kind of, what are the things you can do for prevention. And I think just kind of simplify for parents.
Yeah, all through the lens of a little boy named Sam.
Yes.
So, and how he has been helped and how his parents have helped him.
Yeah.
So, it's cool. So we'll, in the next few hours, we'll have a link to that so that you can download it or you can get it on Amazon Kindle because we are excited. We are excited about that. We're getting some direction from our director, our video director. But we are really excited. Okay, so just so everybody knows, I'm Susan Stutzman. This is Fernando Gonzalez. He's one of the therapists at Kid Matters Counseling. I own Kid Matters Counseling, and I'm just popping in here to provide some support for parents during this unprecedented time in our lives and the lives of children everywhere. So I'm going to be here on Instagram Live for the next... Oh, something's going on with my hair. There we go. I'm going to be here on Instagram Live for the next 5 days at 11 a.m. Talking about mental health concerns and ways to address them with kids in your home. Because you are with your kids in your home, and if you haven't had mental health issues, you may now. So we also want to answer your questions, and we look forward to hearing them. But first, I want to let you know a little bit about Kid Matters. If you don't know already, Kid Matters, at Kid Matters, we know that an increasing number of kids are struggling with mental health, and parents are often frustrated because they don't always know how to help. And we provide transformative counseling. We're working to provide transformative counseling so kids can find relief from mental struggles, and we can equip parents with tools to make meaningful connections with their kiddos to last a lifetime. Because we believe at Kid Matters that every child deserves a chance to find healing through quality and compassionate counseling. Awesome. Hi, thanks for joining. Okay, so today I will be sharing some thoughts on navigating unexpected situations with your kids and way to cope possibly when you are losing it. We all have a lot of big feelings. Sometimes it's hard to cope. So I'm just going to go through a few little things, and Fernando, you can chime in
Sure.
When you're ready, and then we're going to take your questions, okay? So first of all, navigating unexpected situations is tricky because, as Dan Siegel, who is a neuroscientist as well as a psychologist, talks about, is our brain has 3 parts. So if you pick up your hand, this would be the base of your brain right down here. This would be the middle part of your brain, and this would be the top part of your brain. We grow as humans up. And so the base of our brain is where automatic things happen. It's the brain stem, and it's where fight, flight, freeze, fall asleep happens. As we grow, we start to experience like sensory stuff, our the ability to experience feelings and different exciting things. But it also is this part of our brain, the limbic system, brings in allows all the sensory data to come in and be processed. And so if we feel an unexpected challenge or threat, we can automatically go into a fight, flight, or freeze so that we can stay alive. But as we grow, we have more and more capacity to be able to think with our thinking brain. And what's really exciting is we can talk to those feelings and not always just go into panic. Mm-hmm. But because we are in an unknown situation, we have a lot more panic and a lot more big feelings. So we have seen that throughout the past number of days and weeks with people hoarding things, and your children are feeling that. And so it's tricky. It's tricky to navigate these situations. Hi to everyone that's just joining us. We're talking about coping with the unknown and why this is hard from a scientific perspective. And I'm Susan, and this is Fernando.
Hi.
And one of the things that I want to highlight is because our brain is working to keep us safe, it is going to go into fight, flight, or freeze when we have unknowns. But as we navigate this unknown situation with our children, we have a few more knowns, and so it's important to grasp onto those knowns and really speak them to yourself as well as your children in order to have a regulated base at your home.
Yeah, and I do want to say, I think because a lot of this is new, right? We kind of never lived through this experience, right? There's a lot of these unknowns that you're kind of talking about. And usually our brain and our eyes are kind of looking and scanning for what are the things that we're familiar with so that we can, what are the challenges we've already faced, and do any of those match to now so that we can do similar things to cope with. And the reality is that almost none of us have anything similar to this, and so our brain is kind of really scrambling with, I don't know how to handle this. And so I think, that's why you mentioned, like, we might see a spike in experiencing anxiety or frustration or fear, and because our brain is literally almost like building these like coping strategies for something that we don't know about.
Right. And so since we've never experienced a challenge like this in our lives, a pandemic, or most of us haven't, maybe some of our older relatives or older people that we know, but it can be really, really frightening for not only us, but also for our children. So how do we cope with this? How do we cope with the unknown as well as being sheltered in place here in Illinois? I don't know about all of you and where you are, but in Illinois, we have our governor put in a shelter in place, which basically means unless you're an unnecessary service, you have to stay at home, unless you need something like groceries or pharmaceutical supplies, etc. So that also adds another layer of unknowns. So not only do we have this disease that's out there, and it's unknown as to how many people are going to get it every day, how it truly is going to play out in our country, but we also have the unknown of being at home with our kids. And what do we do with that?
That's why we're here.
That's right. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. We'd love to answer some of your questions. And while we're waiting for questions, I do just want to say that a few things that you can do to help yourself and your children is to just learn a little bit about what is you're feeling. And to do that is to take some space each day and to give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling, and then speak to it. So scientifically, we know that if you have something that is causing fear, anxiety, a big feeling, if you name it, you can begin to tame it. So this means that if we speak it out into existence in front of us, we can begin to work with it, right? So one of the things that I love to do is to take my feelings on a walk. Have you ever taken your feelings on a walk, Fernando?
No, I usually take my feelings on a nap.
On a nap. Okay. So I like to take my feelings on a walk, and here's what I like to do. If I can't actually physically go outside, I like to take my feelings, kind of like that guy in Harry Potter. I'm totally Dumbledore. You know how he like takes a thought out and he puts it in that bowl and he swirls it around. So I like to take my feelings out and put it in my palm and take a look at it and notice it. Notice where I'm feeling it in my body, what I can do. What I can see about it, right? Yeah. And then I want to thank it for being there, because it's there for a reason, and ask it what it needs. And sometimes our feelings need all sorts of things. It might need a hug, it might need reassurance, it might need a snack, it might need a nap,
yes,
right? It might need any sort of thing. And so I'm going to share, I'm going to allow it to feel. And as I go on a walk, sometimes mentally, I'm going to go on this walk. I then allow it to be released. And if I don't need it, it can go away. If I do need it, by paying attention to it, it actually can become less of the focus. So if it's anxiety, then I can say, thank you for helping me stay alive. I want to take care of you so that you don't have to work so hard and be the focus right now.
I will also say that sometimes...
Yes, good. I'm mindfully balanced. I'm glad you're going to do this later this afternoon. I do this often, especially with my kids, too, if they have something that they're anxious about. Yeah. Go ahead, Fernando.
I was just going to say that sometimes it can also be, I think, really challenging for some of us to kind of identify what the feeling is. And so kind of another substitute for that idea is to just kind of notice what is happening or what you're doing. So if you're someone who gets really anxious and it starts to kind of think about a million things and your thoughts are just racing, I think even noticing and calling that out, right? Like, man, right now my mind is just running with thoughts, right? I think kind of identifying that can be helpful. Or if, again, you have a hard time noticing what the feeling is, or you have a million feelings, but you can kind of see that maybe your hands are shaking a little bit, or your legs feel like they're kind of like they really need to run. Even just calling out and noticing small little changes can also be very helpful, and I think also can kind of lead us on a path of really identifying like what really is that feeling, right? Because sometimes that can be a little cloudy to see.
Yeah. And then just like when hi Allie, welcome. And just like when you may be able to identify and notice something, so because we work with kids, I'm going to talk about kids too. If I can notice something in a child, then we can find options. And not all options are going to work for everybody. Just like if you go to a restaurant, you're not going to get everything on the menu. Not everybody's going to want to eat a hamburger. Some people will want a salad. Some people will want French fries. I'm sorry for mentioning restaurants because we can't go to restaurants right now. We can only order takeout. However, think about this. So menus you give us options. And so if you can have a menu or a list of options or a basket of things for a child, it can be really helpful in this situation. But for their feelings. So if, like what you were saying, right, you're noticing so let's just take that for an instance. Yeah. If you're noticing your legs bouncing, and they might need to move, after you notice it, what do? Well, you can give it some options. Maybe you can't go and take a class with a friend or go to gymnastics class, but you could jump on a trampoline, or you could take a walk outside, or you could stomp, or you could have a dance party. And so think about that as like menu options, ways to categorize, okay, what can I do with this now? Or how can I help this feeling or love it so that it doesn't get bottled up in me and cause something else?
Yeah, and I think movement is really important nowadays because we're so confined to being in our homes or something, for those who can go to work at work. But I think kids, especially who are, they're growing physically and their motor skills are supposed to be developing, it can feel really overwhelming to not be able to leave a specific space. And so I think playing around with movement and jumping and dancing and flailing of arms, and usually all of the things that I think make kids really silly and happy is going to be amazing Especially if parents can do that with them.
Yes, especially if parents can do that with them. And also know that because this is an unprecedented time, even if you have like rules in your home, like don't jump off the couch, or we only use certain things to play with, we don't play in this room, etc. It could be a really helpful thing to sit down with your kids and say, because we don't have as much freedom to move about in our world, we're going to relax on some of these rules. Here are some new rules. They aren't forever, but this is how we're going to deal with this. And you could create a gym in your living room, or you could create...
Or forts and leave it open.
Last night we set up a tent. You know, like it was just like my son was like, "Mommy, I want to sleep in the tent," and I was like, "Yes, you can." He did not, but I think that doing new things is okay, and know that you don't always have to keep them that way, especially if you don't like your kids jumping off of your furniture. But if it's going to cause you to have better relationship and relatability with your child, then in parameters, I would say encourage new ways to encourage movement.
Yeah, I think it also kind of adds in this extra layer where it allows kids to have a little bit more choice and control over their environment, and that right now a lot of us don't have that, and so it can feel really nice as a parent to be like, this is what I'm noticing in you. This is what I'm noticing in me. Okay, here's our menu of options, right? Now I can kind of set up the situation, and your child will be able to say, wow, these 4 ideas are pretty good, or you know what, I don't like these 2, but I like these 3. Let's do this one. And I think it adds a little more, it gives children more control and more sense of security when they get to choose the way that they're going to engage playfully with someone and use that movement.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. If you're just joining us, I'm Susan Stutzman. I own Kid Matters Counseling, and this is one of my counselors. He's a somatic therapist as well as a TheraPlay therapist, and many other things. Parent coach here, Fernando Gonzalez, and we're talking about coping with the unknown and why it's hard from a scientific lens. If you have any questions that you would like to ask us, we are going to be on here for probably about 10 more minutes, and we'd love to answer those. Also, we're going to be on here live every day the next 4 days after this. So for the 5 days of Monday through Friday this week, and tomorrow we're going to talk about how to create a new schedule and how to cope with that new schedule. So we're going to have some ideas on that for you guys. But right now, I kind of wanted to talk about some things that we can do to help us as we navigate the unknown and cope with the unknown, because we have all of this. We can even though we're still in our home, we have lots of data still coming at us through electronics, and so it can cause us to get even more anxious, even just sitting on our couch. And then as human beings, what is wonderful, thank you, Barb, you're so sweet. As human beings, because we can get really anxious, and which is wonderful, it actually helps.
It's very helpful.
It helps to protect us in some situations, but it also is really negative if it continues to last a long time. What is important to know is that even if we try to mask it from our children, they still are feeling it because we are energetic beings. So I don't know if any of you have gone to the grocery store and you have started to feel this sense of panic when you get in there. A lot of it is because of the energy of other people, the newness of the situation, as well as seeing that things are out of stock.
Sure.
And what is that all about? Tell us a little bit about that, Fernando.
Yeah. So in our brains, we have these little things called mirror neurons. So sometimes our eyes are always picking up information from the world. And so what happens is that we go and we gather all this information, right? Like there's a lot of things out at the grocery store. A lot of people's carts are really packed, and maybe you're going in to get 2 items, and that can be really confusing. And so our brain is taking all that information, right, and it's kind of adding it into, right, this little folder that's like, we don't know what's going on. This is very unknown. And so it's creating, right, this like tension and anxiety inside of us. And so then, of course, like, you know, I'm here, I'm with Susan, and I'm really anxious, and I'm kind of, my body's really stirred up. And just by having her sit here with me and look at me, her mirror neurons, right, her eyes are picking up the information that my body's giving off. So if I'm sitting and I'm doing this, right, and I'm kind of really fidgety, Susan's looking at me, and then her mind is like, why is he doing that? Do I need to do that? What's going on? And so it really, our movement and our energy does kind of travel and spread. And so sometimes it's not even our own anxiety, right? You might be someone who, you know, is doing okay, maybe is limiting how much you're watching on the news, right? You're staying really safe. And just being next to someone who is in a higher state of anxiety can also be overwhelming.
Yeah. And so sometimes it can be really helpful as we're planning our options and how we can navigate this new situation is once you have figured out one thing to do, then you can begin to plan for the next time that you do that. So I would say, like, going to the grocery store. One of the things that my sister said that she and her son did was to pretend that it was a scavenger hunt. So cool. Instead of thinking about what are all these things that are out and how am I going to deal with all this and what am I going to cook with, you know, all these ingredients that I don't normally, because that's all that's in the store or whatever. She and her son went and they decided to have a scavenger hunt and to think of new foods that they, as their family, could eat that week. That's one way to manage when things are out of control, to gain back, take back things that you can control, right? Playing with your kids. That is a simple way to play with your kids. Playing with your kids at home, getting down on the ground, doing lots of fun things. We have a 5-day challenge. If you need ideas on fun games or ways to interact with your kids, the link is in our bio. I love, have the kids make a poster for passerbys. I love that. And we had in Hinsdale, on St. Patrick's Day, they sent out some fun clovers for people to color so that people could go around to different homes and as they were walk around and spot as many as they could. There's also been some sidewalk chalk challenges where people have written stuff on sidewalk chalk. I know we have 3 families that moved in within the last month on our block, and we've started to get to know them, and all of a sudden now we're cut off, right? Putting messages in sidewalk chalk or having your kids learn different things. Yes, I love that. The opposite parade. Nice. I've also heard rainbows in windows. Yeah. So doing fun things, you can still walk outside, right? You can pass around notes to your neighbors and say, on this day, this is what we're going to do. Or, would you join us? And, I would just encourage you to think about the things that you can control and to practice those with your children, and also to have a little less expectation on yourself at this point, and know that you're going to need to take breaks. You're going to need to take time to care for yourself. You're going to need to reset. And when you're in a situation like this and you don't have social supports outside of your home that can come in and watch your children, or that can come in and help you to reset, it can be really important to still have connection with people and cope with the unknown by making sure that they're there, because our brain sometimes creates things and does things that aren't always really fun for us. Like, imagine that everyone's dying, or that something else, that people aren't okay. So try and reach out and connect to people over social platforms. Just don't do it all day, every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Some families have mentioned that they are, because we're so accustomed to text message and online stuff, that they're shifting into writing snail mail. And kind of like having kids like make art projects and, sending that to family members. And I thought, what a great idea and what an interesting way to kind of like move back into how I used to communicate with people, which is just writing letters.
Yeah, I love that. And also, I love this too, from Feelings Doctor. I've also had families start making individual quiet corners in their homes to combat family fussing, which is so great. One other thing that I will mention is that when we are consuming electronic media or are on devices, what can be really tricky is we can mentally be somewhere else, and then when we have to come back, it can be a jolting sensation or really hard reality. And this can be for us as well as for our kids. So I would encourage you to think about, if you're going to spend time watching a movie or be on the internet, when you come down, do something with your senses. So either take a resetting breath when you turn it off. Don't just jump right into the next activity, or to eat a snack. And I think that it would be really important to, hi, Allie, I see your question. I'll answer in just a second. To make sure that you're connecting the brain to your body. So any of those big movements that might need to happen. So everybody probably has seen toddlers who've been watching a movie and it's taken away, and then all of a sudden it's like, they're having a temper tantrum. Well, if you can give them a limit, a warning, and then hand them something to eat, or give their hand a massage, or tell them what's going to happen, it can help the transition greatly. Okay, Allie, how would you explain the current situation to a toddler who might not totally understand what's happening, other than the fact that there's been a change in the routine? Thank you for that question. Feelings Doctor says, I have a great comic online. I'll share it. Yes, follow her and find that. Also, Fernando wrote a fun book that we're going to put out. It's free. It'll be a PDF or a Kindle version in the next few hours, and it is how to explain the coronavirus to kids, and it's through the lens of a little boy named Sam. And one of the highlights that I like to share, can I share this from the book?
Please.
Okay, is that he talks about how the coronavirus is kind of like glitter that is hard to, it's really, really hard to it gets everywhere and it's hard to clean. You find it everywhere for weeks, right? And
in your hair, in your hands.
That's right,
even
all
after
over.
showering.
It's kind of like sand too in a playroom. However, so we want to make sure that we can stay clean, and it's really great. I can't do it justice. However, I will say that with little kids, it is really, really tricky. Really tricky. I know my little 3-year-old was outside and he wanted to go over and play with a friend, because now we have all these 3-year-old boys on our block. He saw the basketball hoop in the backyard. He's like, I'm going to go. And I said, oh, we can't. And it feels so hard, right? And so then it's like, let's just keep people inside. But I would share, I would not only read books, but I would also say things like, this is a really tricky time. You want to see your friends. Me too. But right now, when people are sick, rest is best. So we're going to let them rest. This is really tricky, isn't it? And then move on, depending on the child's age. I think you're talking about a little one. I
feel like I would say to, is it Ellie?
Allie,
yeah. Is because toddlers are so young and probably can't understand a lot of what's going on, I would keep it really short and simple, kind of use simple words like, like people are, like some people are sick, and right, sometimes, like right now, because a lot of people are sick, they're saying it's best to not always, go outside or not always be with a lot of friends, right? And again, kind of like providing that menu of options of like, but like when a lot of people like this are sick, here's what we can do. And so we can, we can be inside and do this, or,
we can make them cards, right. Or
yeah.
we can bake a cake, and for them, or for us, and
right, or you and right, like if you have a yard, right, like you and I can go outside and we can do something together. But yeah, I would just kind of like really limiting down to the language that you're using, and I think a lot of this is because it is a change in routine. I anticipate a lot of frustration and anger coming from toddlers and kids in that age range, because it is a time where they've just started to walk and to move, and their bodies are starting to like be able to do things that they don't need adults to do. And right now, a lot of what we have to say is actually no, we can't do that. And so I think it's a really conflicting time, both for a child's development and growth, and because of the limits we have to put for them.
Yeah, and it's another change, another transition, and that's hard because I know, Allie, with depending on how many transitions you've had, and it can be overwhelming and exhausting because it's just yet another one. And for kids, they're always going through transitions, no matter if they're moving across the country or across the world, in their day-to-day life, like growing, getting teeth, learning how to talk, figuring out, understanding, social conversations, social norms, what they can and cannot do. So my thoughts are with you. This is a tricky time. But again, it's not forever. And so the more that you can get a menu of options for your child to be able to choose or to do can be really helpful.
Allie, I think I would also say if you're wanting to kind of share a little bit more with your toddler, to also to use toys, right? If you have puppets or there's little miniatures or action figures, or stuffed animals, or if you can do it in a time where maybe you're kind of playing and I don't know, maybe you're touching some gooey things, or your toddler is just kind of like moving and kind of just having fun. I think it's really hard to have kids come and sit and listen to unexpected and unknown situations, because usually we don't do that with kids unless something's probably gone wrong. And so the more kind of fun and interactive we can make and seamless we can make it seem for kids, like, oh, we're just hanging out, we're just playing, we're having fun, and also like here's, like a lot of people are sick right now, so this is what we're going to do today, I think can be really helpful, because it it's a good way, I think, to distract the mind and to give the perception that like we're not in chaos, even though we are, and it strongly feels like we are, and feeling that chaos as a toddler can be intense. Yeah,
it is. And it's intense for parents too, because you get to be with them 24 hours a day now. So that's, yes. Thank you for that question. And I appreciate your answer too, Fernando. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. We are so grateful for everyone that joined. We're excited that we were able to do this live. If you feel like you need more support during this time, both I and Fernando and our whole Kid Matters team are here and ready to help. So if you do need that, please go to our website at kidmatterscounseling.com and check out our therapists, or you can email, and you can call, or you can email directly. And mental health, just so you know, is considered an essential service. So Kid Matters Counseling offices are remaining open right now in Illinois for in-person, but we're also doing telehealth mental health sessions if needed, as well as play telehealth, which is great. Yeah. If you're going stir crazy and want some more activities, like I mentioned before, we have a free 5-day challenge for parents to do at home to create meaningful connections with some really fun ideas. The link is in the bio, as well as I would encourage you to think about, yes, and we're going to put Fernando's glitter metaphor book up. Thank you. Yes. But we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 11. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes. I hope that you all stay safe, and I'm excited to see you tomorrow. Bye.